Hello everybody, Cream Crazy here with Wrestling Rant 4. It's a week late, I've had to take a small break to get into contact with my coursework and get things up to date with college. How have you all been? Hope you had a good new year, and I hope you're ready for another venting of my voice. I don't want to get too much, I still have a sore throat from about a week or two ago. I'm taking a bit of apple juice to kind of ease the pain, but it's doing all good. And so we're going well. Now, recently, this is non-wrestling related, but I've had a small mouse attack up here in my room. These mice have somehow been invading. Got a mouse trap somewhere down there, and there somewhere, and I'm hoping to get them done shortly. I haven't watched Raw in the last few weeks because my television hasn't recorded anything. SmackDown hasn't really been interesting enough to keep me interested long, and that's one of the reasons why I find wrestling websites quite useful. They give you the reports on Raw, SmackDown, and pay-per-view I've missed. They give me news, but people often say this, that wrestling websites defeat the integrity of wrestling, where you're supposed to suspend your disbelief and you're supposed to not know what goes on. The thing is, if you don't know what goes on, you might get lost for decisions. You may think to yourself, oh, why isn't this guy getting pushed? You look online and you actually see people talking about why they aren't getting pushed, and you find a reason why. And it is useful. But there are only. I looked through my wrestling sites tab on Safari the other day. I have noticed how much shit ones, and I noticed that I wanted to pick the ones that I knew were useful to me, and I've only got three of those at the moment. 24 Wrestling was the first wrestling site I ever found to contain news. Interested me a lot, to be honest, and I've stuck with them. They don't update as much a day as they should, but I will say this: they do take out some stories and put them on quicker than some of the others that they go on. WrestleZone.com is the second one that I also found, actually, thanks to a link on that site, believe it or not, 24wrestling.com. These guys are in depth. They've got a forum, which I don't go on much, but I do occasionally. They also have the greatest, I believe, wrestling procrastination tool on the internet, which is Chairshot Reality. I love those guys, Justin LaBar and Josh Eisenberg, to pieces. They make me laugh. They debate wrestling chat every week without fail, basically. And it is absolutely funny to what and interesting to see these guys talk about wrestling intelligently, using their opinions well. And they've even got guys like Mark Madden doing a thing. They also get guys like Lex Luger, Mick Foley, guys like that to do interviews with them. And it really gets you into it. And also the site has really good news, do good pay-per-view reports, although there's one site I believe that does them better. That is ProWrestling.net. They Every article that gets put on that site, the person who posts it sticks their opinion on the end of it. Now I love that because if you look at a news story on its own and you see, you go, that has some implications. It may have some others, but you look at a guy's opinion, and you can contrast that opinion with yours. Makes sense to me. And their pay per view coverage is awesome. Because at the end of every match, or at certain bits in between, like the promos, adverts, they put their opinions on that as well. And I love that. I haven't looked at their whatchamacallit, the .net members page. I don't want to pay $5 to hear you rant about it, but I will stick to that site. The other sites that I went on, the sunwrestling.com, the Sun newspaper's wrestling page, ringsidenews.com, which I recently signed up to but realised was a piece of crap, and pwtorch.net, which I thought was okay, but I didn't think it heralded much. And I also was looking at the Internet Wrestling Database to check on stuff like win streaks and stuff like that. I have decided to get rid of all of those, and I'm sticking with my main three. Yes, I am sticking with my main three: 24 Wrestling, WrestleZone.com, and ProWrestling.net. They're the three. If I hear any news story that breaks, and I believe it to be substantial, I will use the breaking breaking news bit, or the reaction vids that I put up would be included on that. If I find substantial evidence from all three of my websites to say to me it's happening, or if I go on an actual news site to find if it's true, then I will post a reaction on it. Simple. Because if I can't reach that type of stuff quickly enough, I need someone to help me, and that's where these wrestling sites go. Some people say that their use of spoilers ruin it. They're called spoilers for a fucking reason. If you don't want to see what happens until the show, don't fucking look at the spoilers. Now, I obviously don't take much interest in SmackDown much nowadays, but I will say this: I look at the spoilers and go, that makes actually that I wouldn't mind watching that. I did watch about a few weeks ago. I thought, ugh, it looked good on paper, but when they described it, it just didn't seem what they were describing was what happened. It didn't really interest me a lot. And yeah, I say if you don't want to look at spoilers, don't even bother looking at them because that's what they're called spoilers for. They spoil it for you. And seriously, some people rant about this for ages. But I've done my 5 minutes of fame on that. I'm just gonna get that out of the way because it's good to say what wrestling sites I look into. Because some people don't even look at them. Adds to it, but yeah, it works. Now, what I was really going to get onto was a question that has been bugging me because it's been quite apparent on WWE television in the last couple of months that a lot of things, ranging from the promos mostly, are and a lot of other things, including the matches, are heavily scripted. Now, I would get more into this when I bash Vince McMahon, that long-awaited video of mine that I still want to do a long time down the line, actually. That WWE has scripted things to the point where there's no breathing space. The guys can't actually get their own personalities for their character across because they can't do anything about it. They use a slow monotone voice, but they can't even remotely insert their personality. Actually, the goes even more for the commentators because you could every time listen to JR and he'd be going mental, and you'd believe that's exactly how he feels. And I have said this in the last couple of wrestling rants that I've always pointed this out that you have to allow freedom to actually make a good product because when you see Stone Cold Steve Austin, you can tell by his appearance you believe he's going to kick the shit out of you. When you hear him talk, he's a slightly drunk, pissed off redneck. That's obviously, as a character, he played it to perfection. But the one thing I do know is that you knew he could do it. He could kick the shit out of you, be an angry, pissed off redneck, and the character fit fantastically well. It was going to be believable. You then look at the guys like The Rock, who was apparently given complete creative freedom, no scripts. What? When the hell do we see that nowadays? When the hell do we see that? That The Rock, well, then again, most of the Rock stuff The Rock did was improvised. He was able to make things and insults off the bowl of his head. That was impressive. The fact that he was allowed to do that shows how epic WWE was back then in the late 90s, early 2000s. Because now you just see the same cookie cutter roles where heel has to wear a suit and go out and do the insulting crowd thing. Doesn't really do much else and insult the other guy that they're facing. Babyface comes out, feels really happy, and just tries to insult the heel as much as he can with using the crowd reaction, and that's about it. You haven't got anything different about these guys, and the matches are so choreographed you don't feel anything. And I was going to say this in my TLC pay per view vid that when Sheamus fell off the ladder, he should have stayed down because it went through a ladder spot, and that's psychology working. He's injured himself. Keep him down there. And I don't know. You work and choreograph matches that if they botch them, they get rules for it backstage. I just think if matches were more free, if matches were more free, and if matches were more basically, if the wrestlers were allowed to be able to display how good they were, then the matches would be a lot more exciting because they'd be unpredictable. You wouldn't say, "Oh, here comes one move of Cena's 5 moves of doom." Like that wouldn't happen unless you obviously knew they only had 5 moves. But basically, if I was a booker, I would make it less obvious. I would only book, say, major spots, like say falling off a top rope through a table is one. Possibly doing a top rope move where you know someone's going to roll out of the way. Because I think I saw the 2001 Royal Rumble ladder match between Benoit and Jericho. I saw Jericho got pushed, headbutted off the ladder by Benoit, and you could see he landed flat on his back on when his head was facing the ladder, and you could tell he just rolled around a little bit to make the spot happen. Now I can understand in that situation where a top rope move like that is going to happen, a top of the ladder move is going to happen. You need to plan it and do it correctly. But if you do it for almost everything from a move to move basis, then it just takes away from the fluidity of the match, where the way it flows well, and it just doesn't make good entertainment for people like me who like to watch good, fast-paced action of wrestling. And that's not high-flying wrestling. I mean technical wrestling, where you can do grapples, follow to submission moves, and then work on opponents when they're down, and create a really good story. I don't understand why WWE is so hell-bent on making everything so polished, so perfect, just so they don't have any flaws because they're PG rated, so that nothing slips out. Hey, WrestleMania 25. No one expected Roddy Piper to openly say, "You son of a bitch," right at Jericho in the middle when the camera could easily pick up his audio. That was unexpected. The commentators didn't see it coming, neither did I. And you see my point. They want to stop things like that, all slip-ups happening. And that is not going to be a good thing for them in the long run, at all. And that also feeds into my next point, that the fans are picking this up. They're thinking, okay, we know this is scripted to oblivion. We know this is just, some of it is really slow, and we're just going to sit there not really doing a shit and let the kids just chant loads. Because I was in London. I've been in London the last couple of times watching Raw and SmackDown at the O2 Arena. And I have noticed, actually, a big difference since my first wrestling show in 2007 at Earl's Court, and I noticed the crowd was completely different. The fans back then, about my age then, 14, 15, 16-ish, going mental around me. Loved it. And then, last couple of times, I've been around so many kids. And I was watching Raw, I think 2009's Raw, the one before Backlash, and I was in the crowd with these kids beside me. There was two teenagers on one side of me who were going completely mental with me, singing along to the entrance music, chanting at things, getting into the matches and enjoying it. These two kids were next to me, and they basically didn't give a shit. They were sitting there bored off their asses, and I was just so annoyed because I was going mental. These two kids only went ballistic when Cena's entrance happened. And immediately when that happened, they went quiet again, and they actually looked like the most bored kids on earth. I always say, if you don't emotionally invest yourself in this product, you don't get anything from it. And these kids aren't doing themselves favours. No wonder the crowd are so dead, because they're waiting for their moment of the night, when what they want to see. I wait for a Daniel Bryan match, a CM Punk match, but I'm also thinking what else could happen, and I'm trying to get myself into it. Whilst these other people, these kids, only go Cena, Cena, and they question me. Why do I hate Cena? I say, well, he's a shit wrestler, and he's only there for the crowd and merchandise sales, and they rip into me for it. I'm thinking, if WWE wants to get to its core demographic, appeal to every demographic, for God's sake. And these kids are, unless they are really into it, because there was one kid I was with who was so into the product, he knew it inside out. Top to bottom, he knew everything that was going on and loved every single minute. That is the type of fan who you want supporting the WWE, who supports everything. You don't want a fan, a kid in there who's just there supporting Cena, because I can tell when I'm there. I'm watching the fans on TV. When I'm watching live, listening to the fans, they're silent for the majority of the night. And that disappoints me. Because they always say what makes a great match is what happens in the match, what happens outside the match, the fans, the reaction, how much they're into it. Because I didn't think the Daniel Bryan Dolph Ziggler match would get that much reaction. And it got so much from the fans because they loved it. Even the kids were loving it. So, put the right people in a match, make the right tempo, and it actually will be good. Now, this is also going to refer back to the fact I will do a rant, not a real rant, but a little dissection of what a good wrestling match should have, and what a good wrestling show should have, happen in later videos. But I'm almost out of time, guys. It's been a good thing to come back and do another one for after a week. If you like anything you've heard, go and check out my other videos, click on my channel, click the subscribe button up there somewhere. Go in the comments box if you want to put your opinions on anything you've heard. And give me ideas, give me pointers, because I've got some shows planned. And I want to know if you guys have any options for me to rant about. I will say this, every 5 episodes, I do a special episode where one topic is covered in the 3 little sections. I'm doing one of those next week, because the brand extension could be scrapped. I'm going to do a brands special next week. A special episode dedicated to the brand extension and everything related. So, I will see you next week for that, and I hope you have a good weekend and a good week. See you later.